welcome to Notion Club. This is episode 2. My name is Ethan, and joining me today, and as always, is Mariah. Say hello to everybody, Mariah.
Hi, guys.
And today, we would like to discuss a topic that everybody advises not to talk about in public, but we're going to do it anyway here at Notion Club, and that is the topic of religion. We came across this idea because Mariah found a very, very well-written article that was found in the Huffington Post, written by one Eve Fairbanks, and it's titled, Behold the Millennial Nuns. But first, I would like to ask you, Mariah, how was your week?
It was pretty good, didn't do a whole lot. Mainly just read and got ready for this, podcast.
Nice. What are you reading these days?
Currently, I am reading several books. So I just finished this graphic novel called Walking Shadows. For the life of me, I can't remember the author's name, but it was really interesting. I really like graphic novels. I'm reading a conspiracy thesaurus. So basically, what is it? I don't even know. Basically, every conspiracy on the planet is noted in this book. So I've been going through that.
Yeah. I think you actually mentioned that book last podcast.
Yes, yeah. I'm always referencing it for certain things.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible for conspiracies.
Yeah, basically that's what it is. And I have tabs and highlights throughout the entire thing. It looks a mess, but
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's on my
I'll
nightstand.
have to look that book up for myself.
Yeah, I would highly suggest it. I believe his name is John E. Lewis who put it together. So yeah,
okay,
look it up.
Cool.
And then I have still yet to finish The Master and Margarita. It's a Russian novel about the devil coming and playing in Russia.
Yeah. I started that book too.
Yeah, I'm almost done.
I have yet to finish it as well.
I'm almost
Same.
done, and then it's just sitting there on my coffee table staring me down. And I'm like, oh, YouTube? Yeah, YouTube.
Spoiler alert, I don't want to give anything away, but I don't know, maybe things changed, but where I'm at in the book, I found it I'm finding it difficult to finish because there's not much as far as redemption in the story yet, anyway.
No.
It seems to just be the devil wreaking havoc and nobody can stop him.
Yeah, but it's hilarious that he's wreaking
it is pretty
so
funny.
much havoc.
It is funny that way.
It's humorous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like a redemption story. There's also one other book that I'm reading, but I honestly can't even think of what it is. I just need to finish one and then I can move on to the next one. And When Money Dies. It's that's what it is. It's a book about the mark and how right before Hitler and during Hitler's time, how the currency was inflated, and that's what also helped to ruin the country of Germany. So yeah, it's a really interesting read. It's very dry, but it's my second time reading it through. But I wanted to refresh on what I learned in it. So, but yeah, those are the books. Are you reading anything lately? What have you been doing?
Well, in addition to The Master and Margarita, I am struggling through a book by Carl Jung, which I plan on getting into later today. But the book is called The Red Book. Jung himself did not know that the book was going to be published. This was basically his diary, if you will, of his encounter with the unconscious. He had a unique skill in that he could put himself into a trance, or basically hypnotize himself. And from what I understand, it's almost like he just had this ability to on command lucid dream. And so he was able to explore the unconscious realm of the psyche. And it's very, very, very difficult for me to get a grasp on what it is that he is trying to accomplish in his exploration, but it's a fascinating read.
Wow.
So anyway, those two books I'm tackling, and then I'm kind of I need to at some point be much more intentional about it, but I'm right now kind of skimming Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche.
Oh, okay. I really want to get into his writings because I've been, even in this article that we're going to be discussing today, they bring up his prediction of how America will run.
Yes.
Did you read that part? I thought that was so
Yes.
interesting, and I've never heard that before. So I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Accurate.
It's Nietzsche is probably most well known for his quote, "God is dead."
Yeah.
Now, the way that's presented by most people is that people think that Nietzsche was saying that as like a triumphant proclamation.
Yeah, that's how it's always heard.
But that is actually not the case. He was kind of lamenting that. God is dead, we killed him. And he was fully aware that without God, morality is not exactly stable.
Yeah.
He was much more complex than just being willing to say that the destruction of religion is going to free humanity of all evils. I mean, he was much more... Yeah, he was way more complicated than that.
Yeah, I'd really like to read a little bit further. I've heard generally, what he's talked about, but never in depth. So I'd be I think in high school I did read something by him because I think we've talked about it in the past before, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it is. I have a goldfish's memory.
You probably read Zarathustra.
No. See.
No? Okay.
I don't know. I could look it up. I still have the entire list of every book I read in high school.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. And then I was really OCD about it, so I would write how long it took me, how many pages it was, or if it was an audio CD, audiobook, I would write down the hours and the minutes, even though, it doesn't make sense to do that.
That's kind of incredible, though. I mean, it's almost like a progress log, right? I mean,
yeah, I can look back and say, oh, I finished this 300-page book within so much time. I'm getting faster, or oh, I'm slowing down and reading. I need to pick it up. But I also rated every single book with a comment.
Wow.
Yeah. So I should pull those out sometime.
You should.
I'll be like, and Jane Eyre gets a 10 out of 10.
Were you a Jane Eyre fan?
Oh, yeah, I totally am. Yeah. She's cool. And she's I don't know, she's really in depth, I think. Or maybe I was reading way too into it, but I don't know. But yeah, so I really just need to rant for a couple minutes. Do you mind if I do that, Ethan?
Yes, you had mentioned to me that something's grinding your gears this week. Tell me all about that.
Yes. Okay, so a few things, but one of them is why do people not put their shopping carts back in the corrals in the parking lot? Why do they just leave them for the little cart people to come and pick up, or leave them in parking spots so that they roll and hit a car, or you can't pull into the nice convenient parking spot up front? You are such a dick for doing that. Please don't do that. Do you experience that at all, or is that just me?
Not only have I seen that, but I have.
Don't tell me you've contributed.
I'm guilty
to
of the occasional contributing. I will say, the only place that I have ever done that at is Walmart, and
that's where I'm going.
I can think of the specific times that I did it, and each time it was because the cart corral, or whatever you want to call it, was so full that if I were to add my cart to the carts that were in there, it would like stick out into the driving lane.
Oh, well, that's understandable. That is way different than my Walmart.
And then there was another trip I can remember where the parking lot was so full that I had to park way in the back, and there were no cart corrals out there, and so it was going to be a walk that I considered too long to take.
Wow. Okay,
to put the cart in there. And so, yeah, I pulled the dick move, and I just left the cart where I was.
Yeah, like, just walk
but
a
you know
extra.
What? After this little tangent of yours, I'm never going to ever do that again.
Dude, I saw this little old lady. She was like, she looked sweet. She's probably nasty, but she looked so sweet. She was trying to pull into a spot, and someone literally, the spot she was pulling into, this lady just pushed a cart in and walked away. And I was like, what? And then, okay. But then this happens. I think it was a couple days later. I was back at the same Walmart, and I went to go push my cart into the corral. And on my way, I grabbed a cart because it was like, I don't know, 10 extra feet out of the way. So I went and grabbed it, put it with mine, and then pushed it towards the corral. And this guy standing there, he's like, he grabs the carts from me. Doesn't work at Walmart. He grabs the carts from me, and he's like, oh, I'll take care of it. I was like, oh, well, thank you. Like, okay. And he was like,
there you go.
Well, no, listen.
Wait,
he
what?
goes, I do this because it's the nice thing to do. And he's like, and I was like, okay, like.
Okay, you know what? That's like
okay.
Totally negates the good deed in
right?
that he only did that to virtue signal.
Yes.
Way
and it was
to
like,
ruin it.
I was just like, oh, thanks. Like, you know, if I had been in that place, like, I don't think I would have said that. I think I would have been like, oh, okay, like, yeah, have a great day, you know, like, no problem. No, he was like, he looked me dead in the eyes and was like, I only do this because it's the right thing to do. And I'm just like, what does that even mean? Like, I was pushing it towards the corral, sir. Like, please don't hate me. And he didn't say it in, like, a nice way. He said it, like, really nasty. So I guess this is two rants in one. Carts, they need to go in the corrals. Walk the extra feet. It's good exercise for you. And then two, this man thinks he's the Good Samaritan. I don't know. People be wild, Ethan.
It's
People
entirely
be wild.
possible that this guy probably has the same pet peeve that you do, and he just had such a overwhelming feeling of needing to right those wrongs that he needed to preach to you. This is the right thing to do, miss.
Don't you say, like, you see that I'm, like, literally 5 feet away from the corral, pushing it towards. I grabbed one of the other carts by me. Like, I'm not just, like, some teenager leaving it in the, you know, or young adult leaving the cart. Yeah, so, like, I was already on my way there. So, like, for him to do that, like, he could have been like, wow, like, cool. Like, it's so cool, like, that we push our carts back in. Like, he could have even said it sarcastically, like, funny, like, oh, it's so good to see someone else pushing carts just like me into the corral. Like, that I would not have even, like, thought about. I would have been like, haha, yeah, I know, right? These people up in here, I tell you. These people. People are wild. Oh my gosh, yeah. So that's one of my rants, and I had to get it out there because it's like, you know, in England, when I was living there, you literally had to push your cart back because you had to put a pound in, like Aldi's. Have you been at Aldi's? Where you put the quarter in the cart?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, like, people would want their pound back because a pound is a pound. It's not like a penny or something. You want that pound back. So they would physically go to the corral, buckle their cart back in place, and then go back to their car. So it was like,
that's right.
We need that here.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that certainly would have worked on me.
Right? Ethan. But you know,
made that walk for the dollar. Yeah.
Exactly. I did see, though, I will say I'm really proud of Walmart. There's a bag drop off so you can recycle your grocery bags, because, like, I have a pet peeve about grocery bags as well. Like, I want to be able to bring my own, because like Walmart will literally stick a gallon of milk in a single bag or a double bag, and it's like, why are you putting this gallon of milk in a bag? Like, why? It has a handle on it. I can carry it out. So I like hate that they use so many bags, but I also do appreciate that they started putting a recycling point for them. So
this must be the Guilt Ethan episode, because I am that guy who will request a bag just for that gallon of water in my case, because I don't drink milk. If I buy a jug of water, I do request a plastic bag for it, because when I'm carrying my, dozen grocery bags into the house, I am that typical guy who has to do it in one trip, and you can't do it if the water's not in the bag. But now I feel really bad about it.
I'm sorry, Ethan. It's not meant to make people... Well, I guess it is. I'm going to guilt you into doing the right thing. That's what this podcast is going to eventually turn into.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we should make this a weekly segment. What Mariah's pet peeves, and every one of them is going to be something that I do.
Or we do every other, like, 1 week is memes, and then the other one is pet peeves. Because today we're kind of bypassing memes, because I've been looking at them. I
totally forgot about the memes.
Well, I totally remembered, but I haven't found anything that would, like, fit perfectly with this. It needs to be like cheese and wine. It needs to go well together.
I think, oh, man, yeah. Tell you what, why don't we... I'm going to send you on the hunt, because I know you're the queen of memes and you can find anything you set your task to. Find some good Catholic memes.
Oh, actually, you know what? I think I did stumble upon one. Let me just look real fast. I think there was at least one. Something. I think there was just one. Let me see. It's my favorite segment. It's just being able to share memes. Hold on. I think... Oh, actually, no. I did find a meme that I thought really suited us, Ethan. Have you seen that picture where it's like kids in like the 1950s like outfits? The girl's got like a white top on and a red skirt, and the boy has a yellow blouse with like I don't know, blue, like navy blue pants, and they're holding their school books and they're walking on the sidewalk that goes into like the infinity, like the galaxy. Have you seen that picture?
It's not ringing a bell, but remember, this is me you're talking to.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, they're like staring at each other, and obviously they're in deep conversation, and they're just walking off into oblivion.
Okay.
And it says, when you go into deep conversation with someone who understands. And I was like, oh, it's Ethan and I. Aw.
There you go.
So that one's just for like us in a podcast, because I feel like, or just us in general when we talk, it feels like we just kind of wander off into oblivion, and then,
Yeah, who knows where we're going to wind up.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not finding the other one. We have at least one meme, guys. There we go. That's good, right?
I'm sure more will be posted to the socials later.
Yes. If I do find any on the Catholic Church in particular, I will... I definitely have seen nun memes, but they're not appropriate to talk about right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, speaking of nuns, let's get into this article that came again from the Huffington Post, written by Eve Fairbanks, and this is such a good piece of journalism. It's really entertaining to read. I highly recommend to anybody that's looking for a good read, just go ahead and find this online. It's excellent. But basically what Ms. Fairbanks does is profiles a few young women who are either considering joining the nunnery or have already decided that that's what they're going to do with their life. And one girl in particular that was interviewed really struck me. Her name's Mackenzie. And she describes in her story of why she's joining the nunnery, describes basically what I think is a truth. It's another mark against what social media and the internet is doing to our generation. Now, at one point, she talks to a Mr. John Olan, who teaches a Catholic high school class, and he tries to present Catholic priests as being cool and hip and current, but one day invites in another priest who has a much more old school, stern approach in his speaking. And Mr. Olan is concerned that the students are not going to receive this guy very well. But then, surprisingly enough, it's just the opposite. The students actually really like this stern guy and ask when he's going to come back. So let me get to the article here. The more Olan thought about his students' enthusiastic response to the hardcore priest, the more it made sense to him. Millennials and Generation Z kids report much higher levels of social anxiety, pessimism, and depression than previous generations. He had seen it firsthand in his own classroom. When I ask kids what they want to do with their lives, they'll say, "I guess get a job," Olan told me. They would explain that they had already done everything. They had destroyed worlds, fallen in love, built communities, made art. Then he'd realized that they meant they'd done this all online. That kind of struck me. Like, yeah, the obvious antidote to that sort of emptiness and lack of reality in your accomplishments, the obvious antidote to me is to turn to God or religion and the rigidity of the Catholic Church. When you have too much freedom, you actually lose your way. Anyway, what do you think about that?
Just real fast, it was John Olan's class, in his theology class. He was inviting priests in, and they...
You're right. Olan was not the strict priest himself. That was his class.
Yeah, because at first the story shows that he was inviting these priests in that were like, yeah, you could be just like us. We are just like you. And the kids were just not interested at all. And then when the hardcore priests came in, they were like, whoa, like, okay.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. That's yeah. Good. That's a good clarification.
And I think it's I think it was really cool of Mr. Olan to see that as well, though, for him to see for him to actually be paying attention to the children in the classroom. I think that was really good on his part. I mean, kudos to him.
Yes. Yep.
So this article in general just grabbed me, just thinking, with today, we see a decline in religion. We see a decline within churches where people are just leaving, especially the Catholic Church. I mean, with the huge sex, what was the scandal? It was the pedophile scandal. They were hurting these boys within the church.
Yeah, hundreds of priests in the Pennsylvania area.
Yeah.
It was uncovered in a piece of journalism that, this thing was a...
Yeah, for them to...
A crazy, unthinkable scandal, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was big, and I could see why a lot of people would leave. But there's a steady decline of religion within the Western world in general, I think. We do see other religions that are rising in other parts of the world. So the European, like the whole Western world is declining within their religion. They're becoming more secular. I would say that this is a secular era. Whereas other countries, so aside from the Western world, even though they're growing in religion, we are not. And since we're focused in on the Western world today, that's what this article goes into.
Yeah, it's almost like Nietzsche had predicted. With the rise of human rationality, the decline of religion will begin.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like religion, the old religion, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole just yet because I do want to go back to the article, but I do think that we're just getting a new form of religion in today's secular era. I think we're creating our own religion rather than focusing on the religion of old. But within this article, which is what we're going to focus on right now, Eve Fairbanks, she covers several girls who are just not finding happiness and security in the world that they are used to. And so they turn to something like the Catholic Church, which is, I would say it's very controlling. In general, and they're wanting to become nuns. And so that's what really grabbed me about this article was girls my age were wanting to become nuns. And I could really empathize with these women. I mean, there are times within the article, she talks about several of the girls who were just like, what do I do next? And just like you quoted, like they had done all of these things already. And I feel that constantly. Like there are so many things that I've accomplished and not accomplished. I feel like I've lived several lifetimes, and I'm only 25, and I'm always looking for that next thing to conquer. And time is slipping away, and I feel like, well, what am I actually conquering? What am I doing with my life? So I can really empathize with these women who are becoming nuns. I wouldn't go into the Catholic Church, but I can empathize that they need something that gives them hope and gives them security and gives them a place that that they feel like they have a place in, I guess,
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's what struck me most about this article was I could really empathize with them. Mackenzie's story stands out. If you guys read this article, like Ethan said, we'd highly suggest it. There's so many things that occur in this. Like it goes over religion and the decline of religion, and then also within just millennials in general, what's on their hearts. It talks, I don't know, I just think it's a really good article. So let's go over the stats real fast. I just want to do that. Sure. Basically, Eve does do. I know that our intro and the other one to this article seemed like a lot of millennials were jumping into the Catholic Church or religion in general. So I do want to clarify. She put in the article a 2008 Pew Research Center study found that Catholicism lost most adherents in the late 20th century than any other religion in the U.S. And about a third of Americans raised Catholic reported that they had left the church. That would make sense because of the scandals, and a lot of the times religion doesn't match up with like logic and scientific reasoning. So I could see that happening. But she starts to note that from her previous experience going through high school, her high school was extremely secular, but she started to notice a trend of people that she had gone to school with who had come from very secular backgrounds, no really religious beliefs whatsoever. She started to notice that her friends were going off and they were starting farms and they were living this organic life, and they had like all these, feel-good quotes, and they were trying to live a more wholesome life. And she was like, wow, that's completely different than what I grew up around. And then she started to notice that there were friends that were joining the Catholic Church. And Ethan, you and I both know, people who have, gone from a Protestant background into a Catholic background, and we were like, whoa, that never happens.
Yeah. We'll get into it later, but myself included in there. I a few years ago was very interested and nearly did make that leap myself. But continue your thought.
That's something that is unheard of. Joining something that's more strict, especially in today's time. Like when someone walks away from a Baptist church or I don't know, just a Protestant church in general, it's really no surprise, When someone walks away from the Catholic Church, it's really not a surprise. But when you hear of people joining the Catholic Church or, Orthodox Jews, like they're becoming, Orthodox Jew or, Roman Catholic or, I don't know, Muslim, it just seems like that doesn't match up with what is happening in today's society. It seems like we're trying to strip down everything that we can that has to do with thoughts of old and religion and practices of old. It just seems so weird. So I do like that she goes into the numbers. She points out there is a rapid decline, but then she's also speaking on personal experience. And then she notes that millennial women, there is a start, an upstart with millennial women starting to join the Catholic Church and becoming a sister. And she goes into saying, right around the time I began to notice my high school classmates' burgeoning faith, something flipped. After 50 years of decline, the number of young women discerning their religious life or going through the long process of becoming a Catholic sister is substantially increasing. In 2017, 13% of women from age 18 to 35 who answered a Georgetown University affiliated survey of American Catholics reported that they had considered becoming a Catholic sister. That's more than 900,000 young women, enough to repopulate the corpse of women religious in a couple of decades, even if only a fraction of them actually go through with it. They're also starting to notice that it's not just older Caucasian women. They're starting to notice that it's a more diverse crowd as well. It says that 90% of American nuns in 2009 identified as white. Last year, and this was written in 2019, last year, fewer than 60% of new entrants to convents did. They're also younger. The average age for taking the final step into the religious life a decade ago was 40. Today, it is 24. They're disproportionately middle children, often high-flying and high-achieving. Typical discernment stories on blogs or in the Catholic press start with lines like, she played lacrosse and went to Rutgers. So I think that's really interesting to hear that the age has changed. It's not like 40-year-old women that are,
It's astounding to me. It's astounding to me. Even if the numbers are down, just that anybody at all is considering this life in this day and age. It's astounding.
Right? Like, like, I'm 25, and for me to start thinking of joining the nunnery, like, that doesn't...
Can you imagine?
That doesn't click with me.
Can you imagine giving up your freedom and everything that you have for something that constraining?
Yeah. No, I honestly couldn't. I mean, I've had thoughts of joining the military, but that's entirely different. They're not a religious belief. They're not something that's set back. It would be an opportunity for free education, Like, sure, you give up your freedom,
yeah, I mean,
a little bit of your freedom.
You can almost kind of view the military as like a career path.
But this is a lifelong commitment.
Right. This is a lifestyle choice.
Yep. Yeah.
Like... Yeah, you're gonna have daily tasks, but then around the clock you're expected to live a certain way.
And I understand. So within the article, she goes over the girls' stories, and a lot of them are called because they want to serve, they want to do something with their lives, they want to give back to the world. So I can understand where they're coming from, but they're also losing a lot of freedom. And they're happy to do so. They find freedom in losing, like, what we call freedom. And I think that's even more astounding, especially for a younger age range as well. Like, I can understand maybe someone later on in life who had already experienced so much, But that's what Olan was saying, was they had already experienced so many things. And maybe that's why it is at a younger age that these women are joining, But to me, I just couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine. I love the idea of, offering myself as a sacrifice, to go and work in an organization and, feeding the homeless. And, like, that sounds really awesome. I would love to do that, but I would want to go home to my own bed, to my own food.
Right. It's understandable, and it's such a noble thing to want to give back to the world or give back to God. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, this is just me talking. Like, isn't there another way to do that?
Ethan.
Then literally hand over your life.
Yeah.
To that cause. It's a radical thing to do.
Maybe that's the draw. I don't know. I honestly...
That's the new punk.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it is. And then they realize, whoop, I can't get out of this one. Yeet. No, but were you reading further down in the article? I believe it's page 2, but it says there's a vocationmatch.com. Did you check that out at all?
I did not actually check out that website. No.
I've been wanting to, and I can't believe I forgot until now. But I'm looking at my notes, and I'm like, whoa, why didn't I look this up?
Don't give in. Don't give in to the temptation. It'll suck you in.
No, I don't think it would.
You're gonna become a nun.
It is intriguing, though. It's like a dating app for nuns. Like, you find your, like...
Yeah, that's the impression I get of it, too.
Isn't that weird?
It's kind of funny.
Like,
yeah.
I love it. I don't love it. Like, I haven't been on it, but...
Listen to you talk.
I think it's hilarious that there's, like, a website that you can go on and be like, link me up with the best place to find Jesus.
It literally is almost like a ChristianMingle.com or something like that.
Oh, are you on it?
No, I'm not. But the description.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I'm gonna go ahead. Like, let's make this an interesting podcast. Let's see what happens when you type in where is that web address?
Vocationmatch.com is what it says.
Vocationmatch.com.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up too because I'm so interested. Vocationmatch.com.
Okay, so this is exclusively for sisters, nuns.
Okay.
And here we go. Here's a tab that says "Find Your Match."
Whoa.
Okay, so I probably shouldn't go too far into this, but the first thing you find when you click on that "Find Your Match" is you've got a few options. I am participating in this survey today. You've got 3 choices for a personal or spiritual interest. Next choice is for a class assignment or research purposes. And then lastly, as a Vision Vocation Network advertiser. I'll go a little bit into this. I'm going to click on the for a class assignment or research purpose.
Yeah, I mean, we're researching it, right?
We're going to be honest about this, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now it asks...
Why?
I am either male or female. If I click male, it's gonna say I can't, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go ahead and select.
Yeah,
male,
see what happens for the males. Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Oh, okay. Well, we're ready to provide your vocation match results for you, but first you must register.
Oh, okay. So we
I
can't
don't
go
think
any
I wanna do
further.
that.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's worth it. Well, if you guys are interested in it, check out Vocation
for anybody
Match.
who's interested in becoming a nun, we recommend here at Notion Club that you check out vocationnetwork.org.
We are not affiliated or being sponsored by, just FYI. But no, did you see...
Vocation Network, if you would like to become a sponsor of this podcast, you can email us at notionclubpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, we don't hate. Just donate. No. But did you see one of the guides for vocationmatch.com? Her name is Patrice. I can't read today.
There you go.
Patrice Tui. She's a publisher of guides for people considering the religious life, and that is including the website. She was telling Eve that she used to get about 350 queries a year by phone and online. And last year, again, this article was written in 2019. Last year, she got 2,600, and 60% of those were women. Tui said explicitly...
That's astounding.
Right? Like, what? Tui said explicitly, asked if I could... Wait, that doesn't even make sense. Okay. Explicitly asked if they could join in order. Oh, so she said that they were explicitly asking if they could join an order that would force them to wear a habit. Currently, only about 20% of sisters in America wear one. And amid all their freedoms, Tui deduced these young women wanted to be led, even constrained. She said she wished...
For clarification, Is that one of those, like, what you see in, like, The Sound of Music, where it's like the whole garb of that I don't even know what to call it, hat, if you will, that like drapes over, it's black and white and
I believe
looks
so.
as uncomfortable as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But she
I think
mentioned,
that would take a lot of getting used to.
right? She said that she noticed a lot of the queries that she was getting was they were explicitly asking for a more, what would you call, a stricter way of life for themselves. So
Right. It sounds like the women wanted to wear those things.
yeah, she deduced that these young women wanted to be led, even constrained. And to me, like, what? That is insane, especially today with the feminist, like, culture. Like, we don't want to be led, constrained. Like, we want to, I mean, I'm not a feminist, but...
Well, yeah, no, I mean, the whole
But-
free the nipple movement. It's like
Exactly.
just the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so to
Wow.
me, it just, and she does, Eve points out that something about it seemed to make her uncomfortable. So she's talking about Tui's response to her deducing that women wanted to be led and even constrained. Eve points out that it seemed to make her uncomfortable. And that makes me uncomfortable. Like, I mean, I can understand
No, I get
joining the church, but tell me what to do. I don't think I would do well with that. You know what I mean? Like, I can listen to an extent, but I don't want to be constrained. But it's interesting that, that she's getting queries that are asking for that, That's, to me, that stood out. I don't know. I felt like that stood out to me in the article.
Going back to that whole story about Mackenzie, I mean, I kind of, the thought that I had anyway, is over constraint, like the overcorrection of too much freedom. I mean, right or wrong, that's probably the mindset that some people have, is too much freedom, make that correction, and then it's just a too far, swinging too far of the pendulum to the other side.
Yeah. Well, did you read Rachel's bit in the article? She was interviewing two girls, Tori and Rachel, and Rachel said there's nothing consistent in the secular world. That's what she was reflecting, and she said Catholicism, by contrast, taught that truth is a fact. Your obligations to other people and God couldn't be trumped by your personal truth. To me, that stands out because in today's day and age, it's all about what is your truth, what is your desire, what is your need. I mean, it gives people, I don't want to say it's a bad thing or a good thing, because I can see both sides to having a personal truth. I think it's important to stand up for what you believe in, and I feel that it's important for you to follow what you're comfortable with, but I also don't think it should be an excuse. And I feel like a lot of today's culture uses it as an excuse. So to me, it seems interesting that it stood out to Rachel saying, or that Rachel in this article had said, even above my personal truth, the Catholic Church is the one that leads and guides. And I do feel like a lot of the times we get so focused on our personal truths, we could go 100 different routes, Like me personally, I have many different views, and a lot of them conflict with one another. So I'm at a crossroads constantly, like, what do I believe? How do I stand on this? And it's crippling. It's like anxiety-inducing.
That is the thing about free thinking, is it's not stable.
Yeah.
There's more stability in rules that are set in stone.
Yeah, but why is that? Like, why do you think we need that, Ethan? Like, because we want our freedom, but then also it does seem like a lot of the time we want people to make decisions for us.
Yeah, that's a complicated question.
Sally.
I mean, like, speaking for myself, I really hate the idea that I am not my own.
Autonomous
I want to, I want to be the captain of my own fate.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you really are thrown out into the world and it's like, okay, yep, make all your decisions for yourself then. It's like, whoa, actually, maybe I want a little bit of guidance. But then again, you hate the idea of like somebody telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But there is that stability in it.
Do you think that's, I mean, okay, this is going to be off topic, or not off topic, it's going to be kind of another side road, but do you think that's why maybe therapists have boomed so well recently, is we've gotten away from having a grounding in something, even if it was wrong or, you know, didn't make sense, but now we are on shaky ground with having so many different beliefs, that maybe that's why people seek therapy so much, is because a therapist is asking you how you feel about things, or they can help you, you know, go forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say there's probably something to that, in addition to just the rise in the rate of depression and anxiety in the population. And the cause of that, I mean, is a whole nother discussion of itself. But that, and I do think that it's also much more socially acceptable to have a therapist.
True.
I think there was a time when nobody wanted to admit that they had a therapist, but now it's a little bit more socially acceptable to have one.
Yeah, and, but is a therapist, so I guess I should have just asked, is it like an archetypal figure for us, like a shaman almost, like guiding us? Like, is the therapist, so we've replaced religion and we've taken away, we don't go to church anymore, so we don't have a pastor guiding us. Who is guiding us? Well, who do we go to? The increase of therapists. And I don't want to detract from mental illness or mental health in general. I have seen a therapist or several therapists throughout the past several years, so I understand that they can be helpful, and like, I don't want to detract from anyone, but I'm just saying, like, it does seem like humans in general need someone to guide us along. Not tell us exactly every step of the way, but give us help when we need it. You know what I mean?
Answering your archetype question, you're now speaking my language. Jung, in one of his, he identified 12 primary archetypes, one of them being the sage, the one who has wisdom, who imparts. And yes, you can definitely say that a shaman or a therapist would be considered a sage. And yes, that is definitely a living pattern in humanity, for sure.
Okay. So that's, I guess, like, have we replaced the church and the pastor, you know, the traditional roles, and we've replaced them with our own version of it? And then are these women just, they're looking for something a little bit more strict, and they're not finding help within those roots, so they're turning to an older form, something that's tried and for them seems to be true.
Yes. I once had a professor who taught my humanities class. After class one time, because he had spent the lecture talking about religion, I was just curious, just to get his beliefs. I asked him after class if he subscribed to any religion, and he said yes, Catholicism.
Really?
Yes, and when I asked him why, he said that he found great comfort in the fact that the Catholic Church is technically the oldest church in Christianity. He found comfort just in the fact that it's that old and has continued for that long. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a very interesting answer to give.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, I feel like we've talked about that in the past, and I wanted to
probably. That's always struck me
more. Yeah.
As far as that claim that Catholicism is the oldest denomination of Christianity. My understanding is that Catholics would claim the Apostle Paul was the first Catholic. And of course, he was planting churches. They would claim that he was planting Catholic churches.
Yeah, that would make sense because the first, I guess, Pope would have been St. Paul. Or is it St. Peter?
You're asking the wrong guy. I do not know the answer to that question.
I literally just read it earlier, too. It's so funny. Hold on. Oh, St. Peter.
I would think it would... Yep. That, I mean, it totally makes sense.
Vicar of Christ.
As far as his position in the Catholic Church.
Wow. There was also something else that stood out to me. These girls felt that they found acceptance within the church for who they were, and they felt that they hadn't found that in the world. And isn't that so funny? Because you always hear of, like, acceptance in the world. Like, we must be accepting of everyone. But they weren't finding it in the world. They were finding it within the Catholic Church. Did that strike you at all, Ethan? Because that, like, I don't know, it just... To me, it was like, wow, that's unheard of, really.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely, I guess not really in this context, but I've definitely kind of taken notice that is very much a prominent message in society that, yes, you need to accept everybody for who they are. But for some reason, when the rubber meets the road, most people aren't willing to accept people who are different.
Yeah, that's very true still. It's so sad. Did you hear about China and what they're doing with Muslims? Oh, I told you a little bit about it.
You mentioned that to me the other day. Yeah, I did not know that before you told me, though. But yeah, you should definitely mention it here.
Yeah, so I was going through Instagram, lo and behold, looking for memes, and one of my friends had posted just a like a summary of things that were on his mind as of recent. And he's a Muslim, and he posted that his brothers were being persecuted in China. And I was like, what? Like, what? And I was like, how so? Like, I was just curious because I've always heard, like, Christians are persecuted in China. And so I looked it up, and they have, the Chinese government is calling it re-education camps, but they're concentration camps. They're hearing stories now. I was reading a little bit further into it. India also has these detention camps for Muslims. But there's stories...
It's insane. The fact that we, in the 21st century, still have actual concentration camps. It's crazy.
Yeah, detention camps.
That's a good distinction,
There's stories coming back. Yeah, there's stories coming back. So some of the women who have been able to come to America for refuge, as refugees, they were seen by a couple doctors, and there's a couple stories. I'll post some links in our episode. What do you call it, Ethan? where everyone can find links, show notes. I'll post some links in show notes. I couldn't think of the right words. On some of the articles that I've been finding, but some of the Muslim women they were found to be sterilized. There's some horrible stories, actually. They got these injections, and then they started to notice that they weren't getting their periods anymore. And then when they were seen by doctors, it was later recognized, like, oh, you're actually sterile. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? Jeez. There's other stories that they were being fed pork and alcohol, which is against their religion, force-fed. And, and then today I was looking more into it again, and it looks like India's doing the same thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on in here? Like, why are they doing this? It's crazy.
That is crazy. Reading
it, honestly, these links, it's literally like early Germany and what they started to do.
Oh boy.
It's horrible, really. But
China.
The problem is,
clean up your act.
The problem is like, I wonder if the Chinese people even really know, though, because their
Well,
media is
their
different.
internet is completely censored. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if they even know what's going on within their own country. Just like early Germany, right before as Hitler was coming into power, their news and things were changing. Like they started getting systematically, like they were scouring things, like with the marks that were their currency. The German people were told, oh, like because you need more marks, that means things are worth more, and what is it? And that means we have the highest currency in the world. Like they were being lied to from their government, being told that their money was worth more because of the world in general, when in fact it was just being inflated, and their money was being worth less and less. So it's crazy. So I wonder if the Chinese people even really know. I did look up to see, what was being done about these concentration camps, because China is coming back and saying, no, they're just re-education camps. We're just, relearning them, and to me, like, they don't need to be relearned. Like, if they want to go to a class and learn about the country they live in, cool, let them do that. But, like, they don't need to be put into camps. India, it looks like they're having their citizenship taken away, which is insane. It's literally just, it's crazy to me. And the U.S. is trying to put a sanction on China, which I was glad to see. But sanctions, a lot of the times, I think China came back to the U.S. and said, you put that sanction down and we'll retaliate with equal force. And I was like, oh no.
Fuck the Chinese
government. There's really
Damn.
nothing that, like, I guess, we can sign, like, what do you call it?
Petitions?
Petitions, and we can put, these sanctions on the country, but what can we really do? Can we offer, offer refuge for these people?
You keeping up with South Park?
Mm-mm. No.
South Park is currently at war with the Chinese government.
Really?
I won't spoil anything, but yeah, you and our listeners should definitely look up the current war that South Park, Trey Parker's in with the Chinese government.
Whoa, I think I'm only on like the third season, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't watch South Park, but I heard about this going on, and so I watched it, and they're hilarious episodes. I think there's been 3 episodes released of the latest season, and yeah.
Wow.
Fuck the Chinese government, seriously.
Is that what they say in the show?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'll look it up, because, yeah, to me, I was just like, what? No, like, this is not right, but it is their country.
Now, I will say they're not criticizing the Chinese government over this whole persecution of Muslims. It's for a different reason, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
Clean up your act, guys.
For real.
The age of dictatorship is over. There is no place for that in this world.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like people want it. Let's go back to our article, because that seems like what they want. Some people seem to want dictatorship. I don't know, man.
You're right, though. You're right. It's confusing.
Right. Okay, so let's see. Where were we? We were talking about
Catholicism. Yes.
Yes, but we were talking about control.
Yes. The need, the overcorrection, too much freedom. So now let's put on a lot of constraint.
Yes. There we go.
To correct that problem. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you? Well, you read the whole article, but did you notice what Eve said about her father, who was an academic, who specifically studied Friedrich Nietzsche? Did you see what?
Yes.
She had pointed out. Her father had pointed out that.
That Nietzsche had kind of predicted that as a result of this loss of knowing what is morality, that there would be again a swing of the pendulum back toward religion in kind of a new strong way, almost like a new awakening.
Or like back towards a more conservative, moralistic form of religion.
Right.
And
right. Yep.
Eve writes that she just doesn't see that at all, and most of us, I don't think, look around and see that at all.
No, I would agree.
Even Obama, he said the feeling among many people who considered themselves enlightened was that religion was a crutch people needed if they weren't strong enough to face the real world on their own terms. But Barack Obama said something, religion is something people cling to out of weakness. So, I mean, I guess, is it a weakness in these women that just don't want to deal with the outside world and they want someone to tell them what to do? Or is it a strength, being able to give up everything and just follow what they think to be true? You know, like, I can't say that it's a weakness, and I can't say that it's not. You know, do you know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I mean, I definitely don't see it as a weakness. I think that humanity has a natural affinity to religion. We possess in all of us, across humanity, an unexplainable capacity for religious experience or revelation. This is a scientifically recognized phenomenon, and we can't explain it. And again, it's experienced in every religion across the world. It's a part of our physiology, if you will. It's in our brains that we have a natural affinity towards a belief in God or some sort of religious experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
so no, I don't see it as a weakness. At some point, I don't know if maybe now's a good time to get into it, but I in reading Jung, kind of have my conviction as to why this might be. Yeah, do you want me to dive into that right now?
Yeah, let's go there.
All right, so I'll take just a few minutes. I want to pitch this concept that I've been thinking about for a couple of years now. Spent a lot of time studying, and Mariah, I know I've been talking to you forever about this now, as I've been grappling with it. So I apologize that you have to listen to me regurgitate this all once again.
No, I love hearing you talk.
All right. So yeah, I've spent this week trying to organize my thoughts about this into something that's a little bit more cohesive and coherent. So Mariah, I want to get your reaction to this at the end. But okay. This all comes from my fascination in the writings of Carl Jung, who, if you're not aware, was a 20th century Swiss psychoanalyst and a student of mythology and religions. I would consider him an expert in those topics. But I'm also going to say I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have a complete understanding of these things, because this is really, really complex, and I'm not particularly scholarly astute. This really is just kind of on the precipice of my understanding, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a whirl anyway. Jung was very interested in the concept of the archetype. And for those who may be unsure of what archetype means, it means original pattern. I think that's the Greek definition. Original pattern. Jung used the concept of the archetype in his theory of the human psyche, which is that our psyche has three parts. I'm not going to dwell on any of these, but just really quickly, the psyche, according to Jung, contains the conscious level, the subconscious level, and then the unconscious. Now, the unconscious, he theorized, is where the unconscious is collective with all other human beings. And like I mentioned earlier, he identified 12 universal, let's call them primary archetypes or mythic characters that reside within our collective unconscious. And I have somewhere printed the 12 archetypes. I'm not going to dwell on them, but I want to just rattle them off here. Here it is. So the 12 archetypes, there's the ruler, the creator/artist, the sage, innocent, explorer, rebel, hero, wizard, jester, the everyman, the lover, and the caregiver. Now, these are all reoccurrent patterns in literature and in life. They are like a universal language of sorts. And these patterns they can show up as images. Think like light versus darkness in Star Wars, or they can show up as character types. Think, again, going back to that list, the hero or the wizard. They can even be like plot motifs. Think like a quest. Like, for some reason, a quest just shows up in every good story. Like Bilbo's quest to the Lonely Mountain, or Christian's quest in The Pilgrim's Progress, Young Goodman Brown's quest into the forest. These are all, for some reason, reoccurring themes throughout humanity. Now, the theory, I guess, that I'm pitching with Jung's influence here is that we are attracted to these patterns and these plots because we have this innate psychological need to fulfill them for ourselves.
Yeah.
These are the journeys that make life itself fulfilling. Now, where this comes full circle with Catholicism is, and I think this is why I felt such a strong pull toward Catholicism, is that I think that Catholicism contains more archetypical and symbolic appeal than any other religion has to offer. The imagery, the symbolism, the story, and even the dogma itself is just chock full of these archetypes. Now, for me, dogma is kind of the primary reason why religion is difficult for me to swallow. But then, I guess maybe this is the Gemini in me. It's simultaneously the primary reason that I find it so attractive. Some days I happen to be much more interested in being rational and logical about viewing the world, and then some days I feel like I put a higher emphasis on feeling and intuition. And yeah, the Catholic Church, I mean, like the Mother Mary, that's such a strong image to me. I feel some great pull towards the image of Mother Mary, and I guess that's the caregiver archetype that Jung listed. There's the magician, which is the priest who offers the Eucharist. There's even like magic in the you could call like spills or incantations when you say 3 Hail Marys and kiss the rosary. Catholicism takes these archetypes seriously and balls them up into dogma, like no other religion does. Again, going back to that comment about religion being a weakness, I don't think that it is. I think it's in us. It's in our unconscious collective realm. Something in us has this constant need to be living out these archetypes, and the Catholic Church offers that option.
I would highly agree with you, because I feel like in today's society we're tearing things down. We're tearing away the things of old. We're stripping everything that we have known away. I mean, just literally everything. And I feel like there's still something that we're replacing it with. We're replacing it with other things. Now, it's not going to look like the old, but it is, I mean, we're creatures of habit. You know, addiction is real. We don't break cycles of addiction. We just find something else to be addicted to, you know?
Yep.
We are creatures of habit, so I can't see that we're tearing away the old religions and not replacing it with something else. I see it as we're replacing it with a lot of self and a lot of I guess habits in general. We're just picking up different things that make us feel better, different routines. So we're not tied down doctrinally to something, but we are tying ourselves down to something. And I think it would chalk up back to what you were saying, archetypes. We still want something in our lives that, you know, helps us get through. And just like I was saying earlier, the therapist, that could be a sage, you know, or a caregiver. I mean, there's so many ways, I guess, you could use those archetypes in our everyday life. I probably, if I could sit down with that list, I could probably write something next to each of those in my life that chalks up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. These are all. You could think about our lives as being stories. Each life is a story, and a good, compelling one contains one of those archetypical arcs.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I could literally, if I could have that list in front of me, I would probably be able to come up with an answer of, or something that symbolized. So that archetype, that's the symbol, I could probably put something next to it and say, oh yeah, this is that in my life. This is that in my life. This is that in my life.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, like, that's really interesting. I will say, my family was a distant family. A lot of them are Catholic, so I would see my grandmother a lot on my dad's side. You know, have the rosary, and she would pray the rosary, and she would have pictures of Mother Mary and baby Jesus around her house. And we would go to church sometimes, and she would teach me, like, oh, you know, you light a candle and say a prayer and stuff. So I will say, when I was living in Europe for several years, every time I walked into a church, even if it was a Protestant church, they would have candles lit. And there was something, and I don't know if it was because I did it with my grandmother. Now she's passed away. But I don't know if it was because I wanted to still honor that tradition with my grandmother, or if there was just a natural draw to it. But I had always lit a candle in every church that I went into, and would say a prayer of some type. And, you know, obviously, like a prayer within the Catholic Church, there are different meanings than what I grew up knowing prayer was. But yeah, the symbolism behind it, I don't know, it made me feel more enriched, actually.
Yeah, isn't it weird how if you step back and just look at that activity, like it's kind of a silly thing to do, to walk into a building and to offer up a prayer to some invisible being and light a candle, and like it's silly.
Pray for
but
the
then
dead.
When you're actually when you're carrying out the act, like you said, it's fulfilling for some reason. I think that's you living out that unconscious need.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, like, I mean, the last time I lit a candle, my last trip in Europe was to Rome itself. And I didn't light one in the Vatican. So that was the one church I didn't, in St. Peter's Basilica. I didn't light it there, but there was another...
Well, doesn't it cost, like, an insane amount of money just to go in there?
Yes. So we actually stood in line for about 2 hours in the rain. I was wearing a dress, and I didn't realize that there was a dress code for the Vatican. And so the whole time while I was standing in this line, I was, like, hoping that I was, like, make, like, so my dress was obviously getting wet, so I was pulling at the fabric to make sure that it could, like, go over my knees, because it literally just hit my knees. And I was worried that we would stand in line for 2 hours and then they'd be like, sorry, you can't enter because we can see your knees. I was so concerned about that. So I just stood there for 2 hours. And so by the time we got there, they were closing soon, and a lot of the things that you could go and see were closed for some reason.
Sure.
Oh, the Pope was actually at the Vatican, so a lot of the parts of the building were closed off for visitors. So it was kind of like, oh, this is cool. Okay, now it's time to go.
Yeah.
So a little sad about that. We didn't spend more time. But yeah, there was this church in Rome, and we climbed up lots of stairs, and it was smaller, but there was a little room off to the side, and there was a pillar and a bunch of paintings on it and stuff, and there was a little gravel sand box, and you could light a candle, and I lit one for my grandmother and said a prayer. And this was right after losing her, so I don't know, it was helpful to have something to go along with. This is what I'd always done with my grandmother, and then here, now that she had passed, it was something that I could do for her almost. And it was weird to think that, because I haven't grown up in the Catholic Church, but, there was something fulfilling about it.
There's also something, on a slightly different note, there's something comforting and secure about carrying out something that's routine. Yeah. Carrying out a routine, something that, even though it's repetitive, we were talking earlier, it's actually like a psychological need.
Yeah.
We have a need for repetition.
I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to tell you...
This is our perfect opportunity to do that.
Yes, if I do say so myself, sir. No, the times where I feel the most religious is when I am actually in a steady routine. This, as long as I could remember, the higher, I guess, I felt to heaven, if you want to say, was when I would get up, make my bed, get dressed, brush my teeth, wash my face, get ready for the day, start the coffee pot, get ready for work, go to work, or if I didn't have work that day, I would get up and read. But it was always like the same thing over and over again, that repetition. If I was out of that schedule, say I slept in on a Saturday and I slept until like 2 p.m., and I didn't read that day, I didn't do anything productive, I guess is what you could say. I felt really lethargic, and I feel like, I don't know, I don't like how I feel when I don't have that routine.
I do kind of want to zero in, though, on you saying that routine makes you feel highest toward heaven or closest to heaven. Like, that's really... I do not understand that. That's not... For me, when I guess most believe in God is when I step into a cathedral. Like, the sense of awe that I get, like, that's when I feel closest to heaven. But for you, it's in routine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the overwhelming thankfulness that I have just to have another day to live out the norm and experience a new day to start over and do my best to get through. And yeah, the routine certainly helps. And like I said, like if I don't have a routine, I feel lethargic. I don't feel happy. Honestly, I get quite depressed if I don't have something to work towards or work for. I haven't worked in a little bit now. I've been without a job, but mainly because I follow my spouse for his job. So day to day, it's really hard. But I've created a routine again for myself. And I get up, I read right away. You know, I make my bed and all that kind of stuff. But, like, I read right away. And I don't turn on the TV at all until, like, Ryan or my husband gets home. And, you know, I'll listen to podcasts or call my mother towards the evening or something like that. And throughout the day, I'm cleaning, I'm studying, I'm staying physically active, but I have a routine. And when I'm out of that routine, it really fucks me up, honestly. And I don't like it. And I feel like when I'm out of that routine, I feel like I can be more anal about things. I can be more uptight and very quick to jump to conclusions, and I can be my temper can be lost quite easily, I think, when I'm out of a routine. Now, I'm not saying like I don't have OCD like where I must do this and this and this and this. It's just having that natural flow of working towards a goal, knowing that at the end of the day, I'm going to bed knowing that I accomplished something, that routine, that I'm living my fullest within a day. You know, and of course I do sometimes go out and like party or something like that, but
you know what I think, Mariah?
That's different. What?
I think you would be a great Catholic.
No.
I think you would really enjoy a Catholic what are they? I probably shouldn't speak because
no, I would argue.
I think
so
they call
much.
it a mass meeting. But there's that routine. First, you will stand up, and then you will sit down, and then you will say this, and then you will sing this, and then you will stand up, and then you will sit down.
No, have you ever seen me go to church? There was.
I've gone to church with you.
When I was dating my husband, when we were first together, they went to a more, I would say, stricter church than what I was used to going.
Did you go to church with me then?
I don't think so.
Or was this after that? Oh, okay.
I think this was, yeah. No, but I know we went to church one time with Caleb. But our listeners are not going to know.
No. I mean, like, well, when you talk about stricter church when you were first dating Ryan, I'm trying to think time-wise when that was, but it must have been after his family stopped going there.
Yeah. It was well after that church.
You,
I know
you
what you're talking about.
Definitely did go to church with Caleb, but that was obviously much later.
No, this was a much later church than what you're thinking
Gotcha.
of.
Okay.
But no, they would pray the Apostles' Creed and all that. I don't like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Oh really?
I don't like that we're going to repeat the same thing over and over again in church. Like, I'm coming here to learn something, sir. Like,
so you like the repetition, but it's the repetition of your choice.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Catholicism would not work.
You
well.
would be a terrible Catholic.
I would purposefully close my mouth. Everyone else would be praying the Apostles' Creed out loud, and like sometimes if I didn't agree with a hymn, I would sit there, cross my arms, and I wouldn't sing it. Like, I'm not saying something or singing something that I don't believe in. Like, no way,
oh, that
sir.
makes me so happy.
So I'm sure I looked like, the worst kind of person coming in, crossing my arms and being grumpy. But, like, if I don't agree with something, I'm not going to do it. And, I would not be a good Catholic because I'd be like, excuse me, this doesn't make sense. So I'm not going to do it.
You're in the pew raising your hand. I have a question. I have an objection.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would be really bad. Did I ever tell you, it's probably going to step on a few toes, but without knowing.
That's what we do here.
So I went to Notre Dame in Paris.
We say Notre Dame here in the States.
Notre Dame in Paris, and I thought it would be the coolest thing to go and take part of the, what is it called? Where you drink the wine and you take the biscuit.
Oh, communion? Or
yes.
Actually, they have a different name for it, I believe.
Yeah, they have a different name, but essentially communion. So I sat through their reading, their scriptures,
the
and
Eucharist.
reading.
That's the Eucharist.
I literally sat through that with all these French people who go there regularly, as all the tourists are on the outside. So I actually like crossed the barrier to get into to the pews itself.
Wait, what?
So there's a rope barrier, right, on the outside of these pews.
Oh, okay.
So all the tourists go around it, and I was like, I wonder if anyone would stop me. So I climbed over the rope, sat down, and it just kept a straight face on it. I know there were people looking at me, and I was just like, nope, I belong here. If you try to tell me no, like, no speaking, like, I can't speak French. So I just stared straight ahead, and then everyone was going up for, I guess, the Eucharist. And so I took the biscuit, they put it in my mouth, and then I got the wine or whichever way it was, and then I walked away. And then hopped the rope fence again and rejoined the party that I was with. And
that makes me so happy.
One of the people in the party was like, "What? You did what? That's not okay." They believe that that's the physical body of Christ, and like you can't do that. And I was like, I had no idea. I just thought, like, cool, I took communion in Notre Dame. Like, that's the coolest thing. Like, I could tell like my kids about that someday. And then nope, it was not a good thing to say. So now everyone knows my dirty secret, but I think the guy knew though, because everyone was they were doing the cross and they were saying something back in French, and I didn't know which way the cross went. Clearly, I'm not Catholic, everyone. Clearly. I didn't know which way. So I was just going along in the line, like watching, like, okay, how do I do the cross? And what are they saying? Because, wait, how do you say that? So the entire way up there, I'm just like, blend in, blend in, blend in. And the guy looked at me and he hands me the thing. And I think he knew. And he was probably like, I know you know I know about you. And I was like, thank you. Like,
did you say all the right things?
I know I mumbled it to sound like it, but I have no idea to this day what they were saying.
When in doubt, just mumble.
Yeah, I did. Awesome. I mumbled. I was just like, no. I mean, yeah. And this was hilarious. Before Notre Dame actually steeple burned, so it was literally right beforehand. So maybe that's why God struck it down, letting heathens in. Just kidding. So, yeah, that's my story.
Anyway, getting back to the article. Or,
yeah.
I don't know if we really have any more to talk about in the article. I think I have said everything I need to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, read it for yourselves, guys. It's very well written. But the last thing I thought I wanted to point out in the article that really stood out to me was, so with these girls, saying that they weren't finding hope and a future in today's society, Eve points out that we were taught that anything you hoped for could be achieved with the right planning, that life is a series of hacks, fabulous tricks, but ones that have a reliable code for how to repeat them. And then, of course, 9/11 happens. We're finding out in this post 9/11 world that that's not true. You can't just repeat a series of steps and follow life hacks and you'll get to be a millionaire by the end of your life. And I think that really stood out to me.
Yeah, isn't that a truth for sure?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Western world, we're told, this is how you can achieve greatness. And something that stood out to me was, why do we always have this need to achieve greatness? Like, why are we... if we are people of habit and rhythms and rituals, why do we want to always be the hero character? Now, I know that's always, that's what makes a movie good in Hollywood is the heroic character or the good guy who always stands up for the little guy. And to me, it just, I don't know, like, even though we have this desire to do well and achieve things, why do we always want to do something greater than ourselves? What is that drive behind it, I guess? With these women, they're wanting to do something more and give back to God and give back to the world with sacrificing their lives, essentially. And we see that a lot with the military as well. A lot of people that join the military, at least for America, they always want to do something more with their lives. They want to get out of their hometown and they want to give back. There's that drive to be someone greater than themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
'Cause I know I feel that way a lot. I feel like I always want to do something more. And it seems like it's relatively hard, honestly, to be unique and to do something good for the world.
Yeah.
And life hacks, that pattern of life hacks doesn't lead to it a lot of the times. You just feel drained a lot, honestly,
Right.
I think.
Yeah. I guess it's now my turn to step on toes, but I'll just give my 2 cents. As far as that whole thing about life hacks and follow this formula and you'll have a great outcome. I think, speaking from my experience, that is also true of religion itself. Maybe it wasn't explicitly said, but I would say that the general vibe of the churches that I was brought up in kind of did make that promise: follow these steps, and you will have a fulfilling life. And I don't know, maybe either I just wasn't doing it right, but I can say that I think that was also a lie. Again, this is just my 2 cents, but I think that the Bible, when it says, I'm not going to be able to quote it chapter and verse, but about making your walk with God a personal one, I think what that means is figuring out for your own unique self what that means, not following a formula. There's no catch-all for everybody. You need to find out who God is to you and serve him the way that he's telling you, or it, or her, whatever God is. You need to make that walk personal.
I guess with that, though...
Yeah, disagree with me here. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's a reoccurring theme that we continue to hear in society today, is we need to have our own unique... we need to have our own unique walk, and we need to figure that out. So, as that isn't wrong, I think it's difficult for people because it's like, well... how can I make it unique? How can I have this personal relationship? How can I do this? Like, I think it's harder than it sounds.
And I'll admit,
you know what I mean?
It's not even it's not practical to set out on your own path. Some people don't have the time or energy to figure out what that means, and so like my college professor, he found the comfort that this has been a supposedly tried and tested system for so long, the longest, that he found his comfort in choosing Catholicism as his way of life. Not everybody is able to cut their own trail. And so no, I'll admit it's not practical. It's probably a harder road. But I would also include with that the caveat that I don't think that there's any ideology that works for everybody.
No, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, we come from, look at the world. Everyone is from a different background. They come from, whether it be ethnicity, society. Society is different across the world based on the country that you live in, based on the town that you live in, based on the house that you live in, based on the people that you live with. Like, everyone is different and unique. And so different ideas aren't going to flow well, from, say, the town next to you.
Yeah.
There's different, I grew up in a small town, and the town that I grew up in thought that the next town was complete shit. And then the other town looked down on my town thinking that we were complete shit. We were coming from different backgrounds, and both of us had a different set of beliefs about the other town. And I definitely would agree. Most religions don't transcribe well to other places or to other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would agree with you. I would say, yes, I'm a huge believer in, if you're going to believe in something, believe in it all the way. Find your path, find your set of beliefs, and go run with it, run wild. But I think it's also I think it's hard. I think it's really hard for people to do that in today's society.
Yeah.
Without stepping on toes, or without feeling like they don't have leadership, or they don't have any clue what they're doing,
right.
And for some, that's a grand adventure.
Yeah.
And for others, it seems like it could be a crippling hole,
I would go so far as to say, obviously not being an expert, but I do think that there's something to be said that you should probably even cater to your brain type. I think that everybody's physically wired a different way in their brain. Some people are more right brain dominant, and some people more left. And if you're left brain dominant and you're trying to make yourself super conservative and sticking to strict rules, Catholicism or something like that, you're probably going to have a lot of inner turmoil trying to do that. Again, I don't know these things, but it kind of makes sense to me. Like, if your brain works a certain way, you should probably go with it.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to look into, to see stats within a certain religion. I guess we could just use Catholicism as a way. I wonder how many right versus left brain people are still in the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see that.
It's interesting. Maybe I shouldn't go into it because I don't have the numbers, but I'm fairly certain that Catholics are overwhelmingly right-leaning in their politics as well.
Could you explain that a little bit more? Because
well, it's
obviously we don't have the stats,
yeah,
but why do you think that?
I would think that it's that right brain thing. If you have more, if you're relying on your right brain, which I believe, if I've got this straight, your right brain deals with what you know, and your left deals with what's unknown. If you Catholics, in theory, because everything's set in stone, there's rules, and you live by these, and you're gonna do okay in life if you do these things. There's a natural comfort in doing that. Whereas if you're relying on your left brain, which is the unknown, you kind of want to keep exploring, and you want to blaze trails and learn, or not even learn new things, but you're less prone to just accepting the rules. You're looking for ways to do even better. I don't know, it probably sounds like I'm shitting on the right brain people. I don't even know, honestly, myself what I am, but...
yeah, I was going to say, what would you consider yourself?
I think that I'm left. I don't seem to find much satisfaction in answers in general. I'm constantly going, well, why though? Or that's not a good enough answer for me. I'm constantly saying that answer doesn't satisfy me. That's not good enough.
My dad pointed out, he said, Ethan, who, he said, Ethan, the man who has more questions than answers, I think is what he said.
Yes.
And I was like, that's Ethan.
That's
yeah.
a pretty
good. Yeah.
description of me, for sure. Yes. Yep.
No, I love it. I think it's good. I think it's good to be curious about the world around you. I mean, now, granted, if you're not curious about the world around you, that's fine.
Well,
I'm sure you have good qualities.
I mean, again, me not being an expert, obviously take all that with a grain of salt. But I do, from my understanding, you're not either or. There's a spectrum there. Like you might be even just 55% left, 45 right, and I'm sure there's even like development. People change over their life as well. It's not like you're born just relying on your
that
right
would
brain.
make sense.
Like, there's a spectrum there.
Yeah, no, that would totally make sense. I think it's functionalization. Is that what it is? Let me look.
Sounds about right.
Because
you can't say that some people aren't curious about anything. Everybody's got curiosity. Everybody makes their own way. People choose even something like a strict religion. They choose that, and it's because that they arrived there somehow. And so everybody does use both their left and their right.
Okay.
But then there's that dominance. Which one is stronger?
Okay. That would make sense, honestly. I think it's functionalism. In psychology, I've been doing a little bit of research into organizational behavior because I'm going to be taking a test on it. But what struck me really well was functionalism. It's a general psychology approach that views mental life and behavior in terms of active adaptation to environmental changes and opportunities. And I thought that it hit really well with me because it was like, even though you have a past, you have the previous experiences that have made you into the person you are today, and the previous like genetics and everything else within your like personality and your yourself in general. But throughout time, you have different circles, you have different beliefs, and it continues to function within. I'm doing a really bad explanation of this, but you continue functioning with your, obviously it depends on your mental health and stuff, but
Sure.
you still function with everything that's happening around you.
Yep.
And it's like an evolution, really.
Yep.
So you have a background and you have your makeup of your past and you have what's happening in the present. But as you're going along in the present, you're changing and adapting and evolving.
Yeah. Yep.
And that hit with me because it's like, yes, it's a spectrum. You don't always you will not always have the same beliefs. You'll start off with a belief, as a child, something that your parents, you'll probably start off with your parents' beliefs, and then as you grow into maturity, you start to look at the world around you and piece things together for yourself. So you are mentally adapting to the world around you, and you're trying to process it for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you come up with your own conclusions, and sometimes you'll stick with the same set of beliefs that you had as a child, but oftentimes those beliefs evolve and change.
Right.
Does that make sense what I just said?
Yeah. And I think even if it's not factually true, and again I don't know, but I think it's helpful to view other people through that lens.
That they're well changing.
People are, they're changing and they're wired to, especially in the political climate. Like there's such hatred out there. But if you could just look at it through the lens of, he sees it that way because he's wired that way, instead of thinking that person's evil. It's just that's the way that their whole cognitive outlook is physically wired to be that way.
Or they are wired that way, but also they're changing and growing and learning just as much as you are.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
to give that forgiveness and that freedom to another person, who may be on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and say, look, you and I are learning at the same time. We may not agree right now, and we may never agree. But I understand that you are going through your changes and I'm going through mine. So we need to give each other space and freedom and forgiveness, really. And yeah, I think that would help the political climate in general. It's just to have that more.
Yeah, just agree to disagree. That like doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's hatred, and it's terrible. It's like, why does there need to be this much hatred? Did you see the clip of Ellen and George Bush at the Dallas Cowboys game with the Packers?
Yes.
Did you see what Ellen said? Because there was like a whole Twitter controversy over her sitting next to George Bush.
That was probably the most...
Our previous president.
That was one of the most uplifting things I've seen all week.
Right? I was like, good for Ellen. Like, good for her. I may, we may not all agree with, George W. Bush or Ellen DeGeneres, whatever. But, she was so... I can get along with her.
Here's how shattered I became soon afterward, though. Despite how wonderful that message was, there were people in my Facebook feed that found a way to shit even on that.
What she said, can't we, we need to give everyone forgiveness?
Love everybody was her message, and there were still people shitting on that. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna step on toes. It was conservatives. It was a couple conservative people that I know.
Really?
And obviously, not all conservative people feel this way, but a couple people in my feed were calling her a hypocrite. Because she says love everybody, but at some point I think she had refused to have Donald Trump on her show.
Okay, but that's a past thing.
You still can't that's a red herring. The message itself, love everybody, is still the proper message. Yeah.
You know what? And the thing is her show and her personal life are complete separate things.
Sure. Yep.
And there are producers and people telling her, hey, this would be a good career move. This would not be a good career move. So I'm sure maybe she didn't have him on for particular reasons that these people did not know or think of. Whereas her personal life, she is out enjoying a Cowboys versus Packers game, and she ended up getting invited to this booth. And who happened to be her neighbors? Oh, the Bushes. Okay, cool. It's very separate, so I think that's a stupid argument, if you will. But also, maybe she did personally choose not to have him on her show, but that's a past thing. She could change her views at any time because she's a growing, evolving person. And I think that would be if it was a pattern, where it was a continual pattern of her not allowing certain people on her show, then maybe that would be the better argument. But
the disappointment I had, though, was the attempt to invalidate that message that we need to be more kind and understanding and loving. Why would you go and try to destroy that?
Yeah.
It's such a golden opportunity to say, let's all calm the fuck down for just a minute and remember that we're all just people and we're all just trying to do our best in the world. But no,
we're all just trying to
gotta
survive,
say,
man.
Oh, she's a hypocrite. Well, all right. Yeah. You know what? Okay.
Yeah, I will say that's I don't like that. I did want to tell you one more thing. Did you know, so for everyone who's listening, I guess, I always forget we're talking, and recording, Ethan. But I wanted to tell you before I forgot, Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess he came out with his own show.
Oh, yeah, the I forget what it's called, but he's like a chemistry teacher or something.
Yeah, AP Bio, and I'm like, oh, I want to look this up. I want to see if it's good.
That is, you know, it's going to be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Which Sunny
speaking
started
of
back
It's
up.
Always Sunny. Oh, yay.
Yeah.
You know what I was just thinking of? Their religious episode. Wasn't Mac trying to vote pro-Catholic in that game that they were... Oh, no, it was the jury that they had. The little judge and jury, like...
Oh, yeah. They were
atheism versus...
They were trying to have a trial because Frank rear-ended Dennis. Because Frank was driving while he couldn't see. I can't remember all the circumstances, but he couldn't see while he was driving. But he was trying to make the case that he's not at fault for the damage because Dennis was eating a bowl of cold cereal in his car while he was driving. And it's just so silly and so nonsensical.
It's bizarre.
But only the creators of It's Always Sunny could find a way to, like, make the people in the gang agree with Frank. That actually, yeah, it is Dennis's fault because you shouldn't be eating cereal in the car.
No, but the thing that stands out to me is the argument that comes from it. It's atheism versus...
Yes.
No, it's science versus Catholicism or Christianity. What is it?
It's creationism versus evolution.
Yes.
Because
oh my gosh, that is one of the best arguments.
I can't remember. They
funny.
go down such ridiculous rabbit trails that somehow Mac was trying to make the case that scientists can't be relied on because even they are wrong, making everybody look like a bitch. And so yeah, he was trying to make the case that scientists might be wrong about evolution.
Yes, I need to rewatch that episode. That was funny.
But, yeah, Max.
I thought they brought up Catholicism at one point.
Well,
though,
yeah, Mac is a Catholic, and that is one of the most hilarious parts about his character.
Mm-hmm.
It's also hilarious. He forever has this inner conflict with himself because he also believes that homosexuality is wrong, but he himself is gay. And so he's constantly having like this self contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's too funny. I love that show.
Yes. I feel like we all have that, though, that inner self-contradiction. Like, this is what we know, or this is what we think to be right, but then it's like, but I feel this way about it. And it's interesting to see, like, sometimes, I mean, I don't know if people keep journals anymore, but if you look back, I mean, I used to keep journals, but the ones that I didn't burn, it's interesting to see the things that I believed and the things that I was struggling with long ago, as opposed to now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, again, going back to Nietzsche, that is the death of God is rationality. What you know versus what you believe. Deep down, you kind of know something, but your dogma says otherwise.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's Mac.
And that's Mac. Ain't that the truth? That's everyone. Well, I feel like that was a really good talk.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. Let's
right.
let's put out that let's reiterate or repeat Ellen's message. People, just remember that we're all people, and we're all just trying to do the best that we can. And I think that most people want the best for everybody, and so just remember that. People just have a different way of looking at things, and it might be because they're just physically wired that way, and it's not their fault.
Yeah. Like different religions, and just because it seems backwards to us, that people are joining different churches or going back to old forms of religion, if they're not causing any harm, I think it's very important to allow them that grace and be there for them, if we have anyone in our lives like that. give each other space and grace to work things out, because, there's things that you don't know about that inner person that they're struggling with themselves. So, I think that's a really good way to end the show. I think the next episode, we're going to be doing a Halloween special, but we're not quite sure what route we want to go down with that.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of a surprise, I guess, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on the topic of Halloween, but like you said, we'll see how exactly we want to approach it. I've got some ideas.
It probably
we'll hash it through all the way.
Yeah. So come back in a couple weeks, guys, and you'll hear that Halloween special. May not be like most Halloween specials, but it'll be a surprise. So let us know in comments what you guys think of the show, and you can always email us as well.
That's right.
At notionclubpodcast@gmail.com. If you guys have articles or links, videos, anything, book suggestions, anything that you guys would love to hear about more in the future, our thoughts, just email us or comment on our stuff. Give us a thumbs up and a subscription. We're on SoundCloud, CastBox, YouTube, and Instagram and Facebook for right now. So, we really appreciate you guys listening. And anything else, Ethan?
Yes. Peace out, bitches.